my beautiful listeners. Welcome to I Wrote That. I am your host, Larissa Sowen, and I'm here as your book coach and ghostwriter. So today I really want to welcome a special friend of mine, LaFleur. She is a wellness writer, a creative wellness coach, a community architect, a mother, an author, all of these amazing things all wrapped into one beautiful package. Hi, Kay, how are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You are a very busy lady. You
Oh,
seem to have your hands in all sorts of pies.
yes.
You you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, you're a philanthropist from the sounds of it. You're an author. How do you balance it all?
To be honest with you, I take breaks. That was something I had to learn the hard way. Prior to COVID, I was just going. And I was just really, really tired. I think getting older too had something to do with it, having younger children. I just was like, what is happening? And that's when I really started to realize that I wasn't taking enough breaks. I needed to reset. And so that's really how my wellness practice came into play because I really valued resetting.
Hmm. Yeah, resetting in this day and age is so important. And it's a thing that not enough people do. I'm curious how being an author plays into that reset for you.
Being an author that has been the most wonderful part of it all for me because for a very long time, I've always been a writer, but once I got married and started having kids, I really just abandoned that because I was just all into the roles that I was playing. And that's also a part of the reset because I started back writing and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how freeing this is for me. It's the way I express myself, it's the way I don't hold on to things, even though I'm a talker. Writing has always been my preferred way to release. And then when I got the opportunity to become a published author, which was really participating in a multi author project, it was the best opportunity because not only was it still me writing and releasing all that I was feeling and thinking and had been holding in, it was also something super new for me to be as vulnerable as I was. Because when you become an author, to me, a writer is if you write, you're a writer, right? You don't have to be so good at it. People think you have to be like this professional writer. No, you're writing, you're expressing, you're writing. But published author means that what you write is going to be out there for people to see and read and critique and that sort of thing. So it was great for me to open up to being as vulnerable because I learned so much from being vulnerable. So becoming a published author was the best thing that's happened to me in a very long time, professionally and personally.
It's so funny that you say that because I don't think I've talked to anybody that disagrees with that statement.
Mhm.
Right? Like that becoming an author is life changing.
It is.
And it's so much of that is the thanks that goes into the process of actually writing. There's the less glamorous side of editing and designing and
Right.
publishing and things like that. But the writing part is so cathartic. And if you let it, you learn so much about yourself. And
Right?
yeah, and you primarily write in nonfiction genres. I think you're
Yes.
dabbling a little bit in the fiction as well, but the nonfiction genre is so unique because it takes you down a road of such self-discovery.
I could not have said that better. It causes you, depending on what you're writing about, it will take you absolutely down a road of self-discovery because sometimes you have to dig up things that not necessarily, well, in some instances you've buried, but with distractions in life, like I said, we just move on. We just keep moving. And this book, the book that I participated in, it's called Strong and Free. And we had to write about an instance where we had to show strength in order to get to a place of freedom from something that was holding us bound pretty much. And as I was writing and thinking, okay, I could really think of many different instances. And there was just one thing that stood out for me that was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. Like, I forgot that I went through that. I forgot that I made it out of that. I forgot about that. And then it just was like a snowball effect, really, or domino effect of things that I just started really kind of going, huh, that one thing that I thought was going to kill me at the moment, I actually came out of that with something and I'm stronger for it. And because of that, I am free from this thing. So when you're writing and going through the process is beautiful to me because it takes you through, like you said, if you let it, if you're not just writing to just get something out, but you actually embrace the process, it's healing. There's a lot of healing associated with it.
Mm-hmm. And you have a wellness business, right?
Yes, I do. I have a wellness business as a creative wellness coach. As a creative wellness coach, I actually help women who normally come to me and say, I have a creative block and I have no idea like what's happening, but I just cannot move past this one thing. And what I do is I help them explore what all could be happening outside of the project that they're working on. For example, if someone comes to me and say, I would like to, I know the information, but I really want to create this lead magnet, but I cannot get to a place where like, I'm not really sure what I want to put in it, how it's going to, all run together and sound or anything. And we immediately stop, you just kind of take a look at the project, but then we take a look at everything else and we just have a conversation. A lot of times I'll pick up and we'll talk about there's something happening in a friendship. There's problems at work. There's some grief that they're still stuck in. It could be a number of different things, even to the point of they're not inspired by their environment. It'll be like, I'm still holding on some stuff from a past relationship and it's sitting on my desk and I don't know why I hadn't let it go. It'll be different things like that. So we, through the process of writing, move through those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm helping them release what they need to release in order to receive what they want because they're not making any space for what they want. And that comes from personal experience. I actually had to walk through that myself in order to be able to help other women go through like that process, which is not easy. But once you actually allow yourself, give yourself permission to do it, it feels so much better.
I love that you went through it yourself. I mean, from a very selfish side of it, like the best coaches are the ones that have walked your road, that have been there, and because they have the most empathy. They really do. Like I've been there. I know it, not I know what you're going through, but I know maybe how you're feeling
Yeah.
and I can relate. And we can go through this together. I think that's really great. You talk about writing to heal, and so I'm assuming as part of your practice, you you integrate writing somehow into the practice with your clients and things like that. Can you talk more about what it like? We've touched on it, how healthy writing can be, but I think you have a very unique take on it that I'd like to explore further.
Yeah, because, you know, being the CEO of a publishing company is beautiful, but that's not how it started off for me. For me, it was more on the wellness side of things. The publishing company came about because I'm like, some women were like, and I want to publish. And I'm like, oh, great. So it makes sense to add that part onto it. But one of the first things that I do when I'm teaching webinars or workshops or working one-on-one with the client is we start first with finding their own formula. And here's what I mean by that. We all have our own, right? And we specifically look at social, emotional, physical, and mental well-being. And to see if we are well in those areas, which for me as a creative wellness coach, the goal is for you to be creatively well, but you can't be creatively well unless we look at all these other different things. So what I mean by that is And this is what we write about. What I mean by that is for social wellness, you look at all the relationships in your life. And before we even start that, I say the prerequisite or the requirement to go through this process is to not lie to yourself. My healing did not start until I started being honest with myself. I had to be honest with myself about my marriage. I had to be honest with myself about my friendships, honest with myself about the roles that I play in those relationships. And that's just the social part. What kind of friend have I been? That sort of thing. I had to be honest with myself, my mental health, my thought process, negative self-talk, imposter syndrome. It was like a bunch of things that I had to really break down, which a lot of times our past contributes to that. And most of the time, our childhood will contribute to that because we hold on to so much stuff. But we go through that process and say, are we well in these areas? Even in your career, are you in a career? Be honest that you really want to work in. Is it draining your energy? Are you just not feeling good about it? Okay, where would you rather be? Let's put that over here. So we have the formula of this plus this plus this is where my life is right now. This plus this is where I want to be. And then let's just start working towards that. So we write about it. And I always tell women, because I work with women around the same age as I am. So between 30 and 50 are mostly who I'm seeing. And I always say, dream. And I know that's easy to say. People always say, dream, never stop dreaming. You can dream until you, but it's okay for you to dream. And that's really where the books start to come out because they're like, you know what, especially fiction. I actually want to write a children's book, but I don't know how. And I want to see if I can incorporate this and that sort of thing. So writing becomes healing because we're looking at wellness too. So that has been the most freeing part of the process for me to really look at the well-being part and then see how that translates into doing well. But it starts with being honest with yourself. And then we write the truth. It's almost like writing to yourself. You're writing about yourself, but you're also writing to yourself. And I don't even ask to read it, to be honest with you, because they're like, well, I don't want to. You don't have to share with me what you write, but you have to read it because you have to be honest with yourself. And then in that process, you learn that you're not going to start honoring yourself. It's okay that you want this thing and you don't want that. And if you were a bad friend in this situation, how do you correct that? Instead of holding on to it, beating yourself up and continuing the process of not being a good friend, how can we correct that? And that's why it's a holistic approach, because I always find it's connected to something. There's an insecurity. Why is it an insecurity? Okay, well, it happened because of my childhood, the way my mother used to talk to me, or like there's always connected things, and we just keep going, and writing helps with that process.
Mm-hmm. I'm really curious. This might be totally off topic, but writing as a therapy for yourself, how do you think that translates into the other relationships in your life?
You know, ooh, that's a good one because it gets uncomfortable when you are any type of therapy. You have to get a little bit uncomfortable, right? It's kind of like, well, it's growing, right? It's a part of the growing process. When you plant something, sometimes you have to dig things up, pull up the weeds, work around it. You have to keep working the soil, keep working the ground. A lot of times when you're going through any type of therapy, but even in writing, because it's one thing to speak something and to put it out there and it's out there, but it's one thing to write it because you have the opportunity to revisit what you wrote. And as you keep reading, just like with a book, if there's a book that you're interested in, let's say a self-help book, and you read it, let's say a couple years later, you read it again, you have a different perspective because now you've grown a little bit, you've matured a little bit, you've changed a little bit. That process is not always easy on relationships. because you're growing, you're changing. There are things that you accepted before that you're not going to accept now from yourself or anyone else. So it can be a strain sometimes on relationships. It was thankfully not a strain on my marriage because we were kind of at the place where we were ready to grow together, but in our own separate ways, if that makes sense. So we were growing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
individually, and so we were kind of understanding of where we were going as individuals. So we went there together. But in my friendships, my closest friendships, there were strains in those because I actually went through a grieving process, and that's normal too. I will, as we're writing, a lot of times women start to grieve what they know they will lose because they're changing so much. They have to make really tough decisions to, change their career or back up a little bit from some friends, that because they start to realize things like, oh my God, she really wasn't a friend to me. All this time I thought that this and this was happening and nothing was like evenly exchanged. Oh my goodness. So what does that mean? I have to have tough conversations. I have to, I'm coming to, so grief is sometimes a part of that, what I have noticed. And thankfully I'm able to help women through that because that's what I went through. It was total grief. I was grieving for what I was losing, but I did not understand at the moment that I was really making space for what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as I was accepting what I didn't need, there was no space for what I did need, but I had no awareness around it. So that awareness can sometimes intrude and kind of shake up and make your relationships uncomfortable.
That's great. I really like that flip side of it because I think people forget that when we open ourselves up to growth, that we might outgrow those that have been around us. And
Mhm.
I think I watched a video the other day about a woman. She said the hardest part about therapy is not the therapy, it's itself. It's the fact that when you are done with therapy, you have to interact with people that really need therapy but won't go.
Oh my
And
gosh, yes.
it's the same mentality when you choose to grow, you have to accept that others will not grow with you or may not grow
Exactly.
with you. Yeah.
And you know what? You can still love them even though they choose not to, or they're not ready. Because sometimes people are just not ready. A lot of people are scared to grow for the very same reason that I'm talking about, right? Which is you have to make some decisions. Because once you start telling the truth to yourself, you kind of stand in truth, and once you make a decision not to lie to yourself about what's happening around you, like sometimes you have to go, okay, that's not my friend. That's the reality. We really have, I feel like I've been a friend to them, but now that I'm looking at everything as I'm going through this process, they really have not been a friend to me. That's a hard truth if you've been friends with somebody for a very long time, right? So, but sometimes that person is just not ready because they have things that they have to go through, like a process. They have to go through their own process. Everybody, that's the formula part.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own formula and in their own time. And so it's hard. The growth process is hard, and you do get to a place where you start to outgrow people. And sometimes people outgrow you
Mm-hmm.
in another area. But that does not mean that you still can't love them. There can still be mutual respect. You can still care about a person. It's just that right now in this chapter in your life, you're just not on the same page in the same chapter, sometimes not in the same book.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to be love lost. And boundaries are a big thing too once you start to grow, like setting boundaries. I know it's kind of coming cliche where people say set boundaries, but boundaries are a real thing. And really, when you're in a relationship with someone, regardless of the nature of the relationship, setting a boundary actually keeps people in. It's supposed to. Like, I want you to be here, but here's what I'm saying. This is just the line that you can't cross, but I want you here. But then, some people, depending on where they are in their growth, decide that they want to cross the boundary, which says, okay, maybe it's not the season for them to be here
Mm-hmm.
because they're not ready. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, it helps a little bit more with the grieving process that things are changing. And it also helps a little bit with the fact that you don't have to look at it so much in a negative light, because it's easy to look at it negatively. But if you look at it like, okay, I'm growing, it's a great thing. We may be growing apart, but I can still love them. If anything happens, I'm still here. Even if I set a boundary, this is how I will be here, because you have to protect yourself first. Um, but does not have to be a negative thing. It's just not easy. And
No.
that's a truth that I have to tell people. Like, if you're looking for the flowers and all that stuff, growing is not easy,
No.
but it's necessary.
And it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I love that. You and I are on a co-author project together, Get Published, a book where industry experts share their secrets. How has that journey been for you so far? You've done a couple of collaboration books, you've got a couple in the works, and you've done one. How has this book been for you?
I'm so excited about this book because it's been so wonderful to be connected to women who are in the same industry as I am, who are facing the same types of issues, challenges, triumphs, experiences, whatever. We have our calls. I'm always like, I look forward to them, to getting on the calls and helping each other and finding out how we can support each other and swapping ideas. And all of this is before we're even starting to write the book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been with multi-author books, I find this so much. The connections that you make are just so valuable. It's across the board, both personally and professionally. They add something to your life. So I'm having a great time being a part of this
Awesome.
project. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have found too. Like, this is my first collaboration book, and could not have predicted the sense of community that comes with it, because you think of a collaboration book, okay, I'm responsible for my one chapter, my one piece. That's it. That is not the case. You are integrated. If it's done right,
Yeah.
you are integrated. You are part of a community. You are leaning on each other. Like, I saw firsthand. I just released my book, and so many people from that community cross promoted my book and
Yeah.
supported me in that. And we've only met a handful of times, but there's this connection that
Yeah.
forms.
That's my favorite part. It is my favorite part of, oh my gosh, it's just my favorite part. And it's so fun. Like,
Mhm.
it's going to get more and more fun as we anticipate launch day. And it's something that you share with somebody else. The whole process is what you share, and you experience the celebratory part of it together. And then you're just forever connected,
Mhm.
especially when you lean into the process. I mean, not everybody leans in. The two books that I've done before, everybody like leaned in and formed relationships and collaborated on other things. And it expands your network. And then on the personal side, you connect with people, you become friends. I think it's a wonderful process. I love it.
Mhm. That's so great. And you have a couple of your own in the works. You've got a kind of a collection of women's stories where they say enough's enough.
Yeah.
This is what I want. This is what I need. But then you also have a fiction one coming
Hmm.
out. So what's it like, organizing two very different genres?
You know what? I'm so excited about the fiction one because I've done the nonfiction before. This would be my third collaboration book under my publishing company, and I love it. But I'm so excited about the fiction part because the community around the nonfiction is wonderful. And I think the statement of this book is great too, because it's like, okay, here's where I went through this process of pain or whatever it was. It was just a monotony, or like I just could not get out of this cycle. And I decided, okay, enough is enough. I'm choosing myself, and here's what's going to happen moving forward. Cannot wait for that. The women who are writing in that book are already excited about it because they're like, yeah, and then one time, so it gets them like really excited. But the fiction book I'm so excited about because a lot of the women that have told me, hey, I want to write a children's book, but I'm really not sure where to start. I don't know how to shape my story. I don't know how to develop the character. And I'm like, okay, so this is an easier way, number one, for you to become a published author, but you're doing it in a community. You only have to contribute to, one chapter, so instead of a whole book. But it's also a way for them to tap into their imagination, create their characters, and I think it's just going to be so much fun. Managing that is great to me because just like what we're doing and get published, it's the same thing. And I also use Slack for mine. So it's the same thing. Like, we're posting stuff. Hey, here's what we're doing. Can you write reviews for this ebook that I have? Or, hey, guys, I'm hosting an event Saturday. Please come and, promote it or whatever. So it's the community part, I think, is priceless in a collaboration book because
Mhm.
collaboration itself is powerful. You can do a lot by yourself, but you can do so much more in a community of people who are willing to collaborate. It's just powerful to me.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm gonna ask you one more hard-hitting question here. What tips do you have for authors that want to be authors or are in the process of becoming an author?
I'm going to say tap into courage because in order that vulnerability I spoke of earlier, in order to even take the first step, because a lot of women that I talk to that have not written a book yet or become a published author is because they're scared, rightfully so. Okay, fear is natural, and people will tell you don't feel it. No, you're gonna feel it, but
Mhm.
that's what courage is for. Tap into courage. That mean get connected with the right people who are encouraging. Try to stay away from um, if you hear people taking those little digs, oh, your little book, or things that make you feel insecure about what you're doing. Avoid that. Get around people because we need each other, right? The social wellness is very important. Get around people who are encouraging, inspiring, can help you see bigger things, but also will be honest with you. Like if you're heading down a path that's gonna, destroy your reputation or something, somebody will say, oh, think about that a little bit. What if you say it like this? Know how to give constructive criticism, but it's going to take courage. Tap into courage and do it. It's going to take that support system, being knowledgeable, research. I'm a research person to the day I die. Like, I will look up everything to see how to, and put my own spin to it because I'm not afraid to color outside of the lines on purpose. I mean, I'm a
Mhm.
creative, that's what we do. But tapping into courage, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to be creative will help you push out that baby, and it's going to be beautiful, and somebody's going to read it because there's a book for everybody, because that's a fear
Mhm.
too. Somebody will love your book because there is a book and a message for everybody.
Oh, I could talk on that for hours. The fact that you're writing to a specific someone. You're not writing to everyone, but there is a reader for your book, and
Yes.
that person needs your story. They
Mhm.
need what you have to say because you could literally change someone's life with
Yeah.
your book. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. How can people get a hold of you?
I am on Instagram, which is probably my preferred method right now, a social media platform. And I am at KLAF Anders. That's K Laugh Anders, basically, for K LaFleur Anders, on Gmail. And that's the best way that you can follow me. I also have a blog where I invite different women writers to, and most of them own businesses, to contribute something that's connected to wellness. And it's called resetwithk.com. And you can also find me on at my publishing company, Chestnut Publishing House, and that's chestnutbooks.com.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to link all of those in the show notes so you can easily find access to those. Is there anything you want to give the listeners today?
Yeah, so I am going to link on, it's actually on both websites, resetwithk.com and chestnutbooks.com. There's going to be a simple, practical wellness guide. There's just practical ideas, everyday, no pressure ideas of how to invest in your wellness. And it touches every dimension of wellness. Well, I can't say every because it depends on who you're talking to, that kind of throws out a number, but there's 6 dimensions of wellness that I like hone in on, with 4 that's super important to me. And it just tells you how to, like, with everyday practical relatable things, how to help yourself be more well.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kay. This has been a pleasure, and I hope that our listeners enjoy and connect with what you're saying.
Thank you, Larissa. Thank you for having me.